Well, good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. Excited to be with you, excited to bring the news, and I know you're probably looking at that thumbnail thinking I've gone off my rocker, but I haven't. I'm going to show you why, folks. But before I get into that real quickly, please support my sponsor, MyPillow, MyPillow.com. Enter promo code Lumberjack at checkout, save up to 66%. All the links to my sponsors and my websites are down below. I've also sponsored myself, and I encourage you, go check out neiljohnsonphotos.com. Get some folks some great art for Christmas. You can use, again, promo code Lumberjack to save 10% on one item, 15% on two items. All right, I'm going to get into this report here, and it really involves 4 stories. 2 were raids on homes. So we've got Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, right? And not only was his home raided, but other associates of his. Tina Peters out in Mesa County, Colorado, her home was raided by the FBI for being a whistleblower. We also have the letter to Congress the other day. Okay, I spilled coffee on it. We got Jim Jordan here writing the letter. But all this is coming out in the open. And so the other thing is who they are choosing to put on watch lists and who they are not. I'm going to get into that just a touch. And so the school board situation, all of this is coming together in the Russiagate collusion. And all of this news is coming out. And it's even getting covered now in liberal media sources. It's become, these stories are becoming too big to ignore. And you're also going to see here as I dive into this report that liberals are coming to defend some of these people, not on the bad side, but the good side. So watch this as I get into it. I'm going to start here with the schools because I think, and I know I did a report on this yesterday. If you want to skip ahead a couple minutes, I'm just going to read a little bit more from that letter, but it's good to have a refresher too. Here's the thing. Jim Jordan wrote a letter to Congress, or wrote a letter to Merrick Garland. Okay, Merrick Garland, of course, is the head of the Department of Justice, which heads up the FBI. Now, Merrick Garland was in Congress, and he basically, he either lied or he was ignorant and not competent for his job. It's one of the two, okay? Because basically on October 21st, this is in the letter from Jim Jordan, October 21st, 2021, you testified that the department and its components were not using counterterrorism statutes and resources to target concerned parents at school board meetings. Specifically, you testified that you could not imagine any circumstance in which the Patriot Act would be used in the circumstances of parents complaining about their children. That Patriot Act needs to go. I tell you, that would be a good litmus test for people running for office, left or right. Are you willing to vote to eliminate the Patriot Act? That's something we should work on, okay? By the way, I'm going to do my first candidate endorsement. I'm going to have him on the show coming up here shortly, okay? You also testified, I do not think parents getting angry at school boards for whatever reason constitute domestic terrorism. It's not even a close question. Later in the hearing, however, you were questioned about the department's press release putting the inclusion of the National Security Division, the department's component responsible for enforcing federal terrorism laws, including the Patriot Act, in a task force you created to address the rising criminal conduct directed towards school personnel. Now, we know that came through a letter from NSBA, National School Boards Association. 22 states have now pulled out, and maybe more now at this point in time. But the bottom line is it created a massive backlash. This is why I'm telling you that they're our friend right now, because of just how bad this is, because Garland went after parents within 5 days. Okay? Now, they received a whistleblower thing here, and it says, we have now received a disclosure from the department whistleblower calling into question the accuracy and completeness of your testimony. The whistleblower provided an FBI email dated October 20th, the day before your testimony. It basically refutes what he said. You can check that all out on another video. But that is in the news right now. So people are seeing that not only is the FBI attacking parents, but that the congressional testimony is not even true that Garland was providing. Okay, so that's all out there in the news. Now, the other thing, who do they choose to label as, quote unquote, domestic terrorists and all this, right? Well, moms and dads and people who were at the Capitol who got charged with misdemeanor charges of parading. We're also seeing that the abuse and mistreatment of the prisoners is being covered, and that doesn't really stand in America. Americans don't want other Americans being treated like that. Okay, now, who are they not? There are actual calls to violence and cities are falling apart that happened in my state of Minnesota, in the city of Minneapolis, We saw it in Portland, Seattle, all over. We see Hawk Newsom out there in New York openly calling for violence, okay? Yet is he on the list? We have George Floyd's cousin making videos here before the verdict of Rittenhouse. Has he been put on the list? We're not seeing that. We're not seeing calls for them to be investigated. People are seeing the double standard. It's so egregious right now, okay, that it can't even be covered. And the reason I tell you that they're being your friend is they're moving too fast in this way. The Biden regime is completely unhinged. Now, we know that Biden isn't running anything because he's not mentally competent. In fact, by survey, most Americans believe that, if you've checked those lately. So who is running it? Okay, that's the question. Obama always said he wanted another term with a front man. Maybe that's who's running it. I don't know. But the raid on O'Keefe's home, this has been one of the biggest ones, and I want to cover this real quickly. This from a University of Minnesota law professor. I'm telling you, University of Minnesota is whacked out to the left like you wouldn't believe, folks. But her name is Jane Kirtley. This out of Politico, she says, this is just beyond belief. I'm not a big fan of Project Veritas, but this is just over the top. I hope they get a serious reprimand from the court because I think this is just wrong. Now, she is the former executive director of the Reporters Committee of Freedom of the Press, and I actually have something from them coming up as well on this report. The Department of Justice's use of a search warrant to seize a reporter's notes and work product violates decades of established Supreme Court precedent, O'Keefe lawyer Paul Kelly wrote to prosecutors. Okay, now, on Thursday, Manhattan-based U.S. Court Judge Analisa Torres issued a one-page order giving prosecutors 1 day to confirm that they have paused their extraction and review of the contents of O'Keefe's cell phones. Now, interestingly, this is out of Politico, and one thing you will find in all the mainstream coverage of this, although it is being exposed, they're hiding some of it because Biden's diary, Ashley Biden's diary, which actually has criminal conduct recorded in it by people at the top of our government, like the president, right, is not being reported. In all of these reports, they will just say things like, let me see if I can find, adding to the drama surrounding the brewing court showdown, it stems from a politically sensitive investigation to the alleged theft of diary of President Joe Biden's daughter, Ashley. But no mention of what's actually in the diary, just like they ran cover on the Hunter Biden laptop story before the election and also the stuff with China. This is why I ask you folks to share this content out, because otherwise it doesn't get out. We have got to work to inform the masses. Now, one of the best things you can do too is talk one-on-one to people. It's vitally important that to stop government overreach, we build up incredibly massive margins, okay? I want you to know that the Virginia Democrats actually pulled back their concession of the House in Virginia and are now doing 2 recounts. Watch that closely, okay? But you have got to stack up margins, okay? I remember when Al Franken was elected in Minnesota after 3 recounts. Okay, again, ballots found in a trunk. The same thing happened out in Washington State in 2000 after 3 recounts. It's like 3's their magic number, okay? So if you look up the history on this stuff, it is not, it's not favorable, okay? Now, so the federal judge has ordered the DOJ to stop extracting the data. That was from Analisa Torres. She made that order. Out of the Independent Journal Review, ACLU comes to the defense of Project Veritas, condemns FBI raid at James O'Keefe's home, okay? Project Veritas founder James O'Keefe and the American Civil Liberties Union are on very different ends of the political spectrum, obviously. But after 3 residents tied to Project Veritas were searched by federal authorities, the ACLU has said this. Project Veritas they always throw this kind of crap in there. Project Veritas is the last curious journalistic organization out there actually getting undercover video. The people are speaking on their own record. Project Veritas, but this is what they say. Project Veritas has engaged in disgraceful deceptions, and reasonable observers might not consider their activities to be journalism at all, they say. Nevertheless, the precedent set in this case could have serious consequences for freedom of the press, said Brian House, a senior staff attorney with the ACLU, okay? So, now, First Amendment activists all over have blasted the FBI raids and the confiscation of journalist documents. Okay, the judge ordered the halt. We've got that. The ACLU said in their statement that they agree a third-party special master needs to be in place to supervise the extraction. Why? Here's the thing. There's privileged attorney-client documents on that phone. There are also other sources for Project Veritas on O'Keefe's cell phone. This is a treasure trove for these hack jobs at the FBI, okay? And that needs to be protected. Problem was, they had the phone already for 2 days at that point. And they don't seem to be honest at all, because we can't even get a real testimony out of Merrick Garland before Congress, okay? The Reporters Committee of Freedom of the Press sent an email here, and this is it goes on forever. I'm just going to read you the first part, okay? In regards to the search warrant dated November 5th, 2021, the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press respectfully requests that the court unseal the search warrant application, supporting affidavit, return, and any other related judicial documents filed in connection with the November 5th, 2021 search warrant executed at the residence of James O'Keefe. In addition, the Reporters Committee respectfully requests that this letter be publicly docketed in the above referenced matter. The press and public have a presumptive right to inspect the search warrant materials under both First Amendment and common law. So it goes on from there, okay? They ask for these to be immediately unsealed. We are seeing lefties even come. Now, if you remember back during Obama's term, actually the press did finally start getting upset with him, because even though they claimed to be so transparent, they weren't, and they were blocking reporters who didn't cover them favorably. There are still plenty of reporters who are going to be willing to toe the line, okay? Also, we have the indictments coming out of the Durham investigation, most recently Danchenko, but 2 others as well, and more indictments coming. The whole Russia collusion narrative is falling apart, and they're even having to cover that. And that is further not only showing the incompetence of the FBI and the criminal activity of the FBI, but also showing that Donald Trump maybe wasn't so bad and that they were duped. And you know what people really get upset about? They get upset about being duped, okay? Now, again, you can think I'm off my rocker here. I understand that. But I truly believe that the waking up of parents who are simply concerned about their kids and making them out to be villains, while making activists who are out for the destruction of our country because they're Marxist terrorists out to be good guys, is not boding well. The prosecutor in the Rittenhouse case looks like an absolute idiot at this point, okay? There's so much going on right now, folks, and I know it gets depressing, but I want you to think about the other side of this, because we are now at a point where Republicans on a generic ballot, we haven't seen this since 1981, 51-41. I'm not saying all Republicans are good. That's not my point. That's why Donald Trump being actively engaged in endorsing candidates right now is so crucially important, and it's going on, and we need to primary the rhinos. That's why I keep begging you people to get involved at the grassroots level. It is a uniparty, okay? There are plenty of people on the quote-unquote Republican side who just want to hold on to their seats of power and are unwilling to do the tough things, okay? But you, that's why we're counting on you, the American people, to again, share this out, talk to people one-on-one, share the information, and ask questions, okay? It's vitally, vitally important. Again, please go check out lumberjacklogicshow.com. I got the Let's Go Brandon hats in, the Let's Go Brandon shirts, hoodies. I've also got a number of other good ones, a spin-off of Take This Job and Shove It. I've got that on there. It's the best. And I got the coffee mugs, man. I got some more of these, hand-thrown, okay? Local artists. I'm trying to do as much in America as I can. I'm sure the shirts themselves are probably made overseas, but the company printing them for me is in America, and they also provide homeschoolers with stuff that they're just good conservative folks. I've worked very hard to disengage from people who are not supporting us. It is hard in a couple instances. I'm still working through that, but I will continue to do that, and I encourage you to do so as well. Also, mypillow.com, freedomhillcoffee.com, and My Patriot Supply. All the links are below in the description, folks. I appreciate the people who are willing to support me and the companies that are willing to support the show. So I just thank you so much. So please visit those links. I'll pin them in the comments as well. I love y'all. Don't forget, keep up the faith, keep praying, and keep fighting the good fight, okay? You're glorious people. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and share this around. Smash that like on the way out, too.